Yes, I know, this is a Power Rangers video, I know. But two big animation-related news things just dropped out of nowhere. So I'm going to talk about them briefly, and then you will get back to your regularly scheduled content, okay? So first up, Sonic Prime Season 2. Been waiting very long for this one, and we still don't have most of the toys yet, so... I mean, it just felt like Prime's going quiet for a while, and then we had, of course, that one screenshot of Sonic and Shadow in the water. And then now we have this. Another screenshot and an official release date of July 13th, which means we are going to be getting another trailer very soon, and I am going to absolutely do a reaction on it because Sonic is like the heart and soul of this channel. The first movie started this channel, and it's just kept on going from there. And you guys seem to have pretty well enjoyed my reviews of Sonic Prime, so look forward to more of those as we tackle Season 2 in July. Speaking of trailers and speaking of July, yes, we finally got news about this. It's been, 4 or 5 years since it was initially announced? And now it's finally here. Yep, Ladybug and Cat Noir. We got a release date, well, 2 release dates technically, because it's coming out in theaters and on Netflix. And we got a full official trailer, even though we technically already got that trailer, but today we just got the dubbed version, so... I will do a reaction to that, absolutely, analyze it, that whole shebang, so... I just want to address those 2 things very quickly, because I know you guys are going to ask me about them in the comments section, so, yeah. Sonic Prime Season 2 is extremely hype. I'm going to react to the trailer as soon as it gets here, and I will be reacting to this trailer for Ladybug and Cat Noir probably sometime after this video, or maybe tomorrow, I don't know. We'll see. So, yeah. Also, one other thing I do want to talk about that you guys are probably going to wonder why I'm not going to be reviewing today specifically, Clash of the Red Rangers. One, it's a big spoiler for Super Samurai, so no, I'm not going to include it in the first season of Samurai. And then number 2, it's marketed and released as a full direct-to-DVD movie. And because of that, I'm going to treat it as such and review it by itself. Same thing I'm going to be doing when I get around to reviewing the 2017 Power Rangers film from Lionsgate, so... Yep. So... reaction for this whenever the trailer comes out. Reaction for this will be up either today or tomorrow. And Clash of the Red Rangers will get its own separate review tomorrow. Just wanted to address all that before you guys started asking me questions about it, so without further ado, here is my review of Power Rangers Samurai. Enjoy. I'm probably once again about to tick off a lot of people with my opinion, because a lot of people just love to trash Samurai, as well as pretty much any Neo Saban season that's not Dino Charge. Yeah, sorry, you're not gonna really get that from me on this one. I don't think it's a good season, but I don't think it's a bad season either. It's one that falls into the category of decent. And I also have a bit of a soft spot for this one. I'm gonna explain why. So, as I stated in my previous videos, the last season of Power Rangers that I watched regularly as a kid, up to that point, was Jungle Fury. Because RPM didn't really grab me, because I wasn't really into super dark stuff back then, aside from Zombie Island, but that's its whole other beast. So, I kind of fell out of Power Rangers after that and lost interest. And then, out of nowhere, in... what year did this come out? 2011? 2011, 2012? What was it? 2011. Thank you. 2011. In 2011, Nickelodeon announced that they would be picking up the Power Rangers brand thanks to Saban buying back the brand from Disney, because Disney was just done with the show after RPM at that point. And now that they would be airing a new season of Power Rangers and try to continue on the legacy. And this season is supposed to harken back a lot to the old school Power Rangers season, with the theme song being a more modern metal remix of the original Mighty Morphin theme, with just a few lyrics changed, to having Bulk come back and Skull in the very last episode of Super Samurai, but I'll get to that when I get to that. And just the way everything is designed is meant to feel very classic Power Rangers. And you know what? It made sense, because it had been a while since the Power Rangers were on TV. And this was a whole new network, whole new brand, a whole new era. So they had to, completely remodel everything. So, yeah. And me personally, this was the show that got me back into Power Rangers. I really enjoyed Samurai as a kid. And when it was first airing, I watched it obsessively, both it and Super Samurai. And also because I had some of the toys growing up, I had that Green Ranger flippin' Morpher figure. You know which one I'm talking about. The one that has the alternate masked head and the helmet head, and you hit a thing in the back to flip it. That was a toy of my childhood. And then I had a little toy Red Ranger, not the same one, it was more like a standard action figure, just super, super tiny. So, yeah, I was a big fan of Samurai, and not only that, I had the DS game, and that DS game will always hold a place in my heart, and always be a very nostalgic memory to me. It's not an amazing game by any means, but I really enjoy it, and I still continue to enjoy it to this day, and because of that, and all the memories that it's made with me, I can't really come around to hate Samurai. Yes, it's not a good season, but I don't think it's a bad season either. It's one of those that kind of falls in the middle. And I definitely think it's more watchable than Wild Force. Just, ugh. And one other thing I should note about Samurai and all the, all the Nickelodeon seasons from here on out, is that I'm not going to list the essential episodes anymore. Because now the seasons have become super short. Super short. You know how in the old Power Ranger seasons it was 50, 60 episodes a season, and then it got chopped down to 32 for the Disney seasons? Well, for the Nickelodeon seasons, or Neo Saban seasons as everyone's calling it, they chopped it down even more to 22 episodes. 22. So, I don't really feel like listing essential episodes is essential at this point, because it's only 22 episodes. Even for the filler stuff, it's super short and super brief. So, yeah, no essential episode listing from here on out until probably Beast Morphers. That will be when I bring that back. But, yeah, for now, for the Nickelodeon seasons, I'm not doing essential episode lists anymore, because it's only 22 episodes. So, yeah. Okay, enough of a super long-winded introduction. Let's get to the analytical stuff so I can talk about my overall thoughts. So let's start with our cast, starting with main Rangers. We have Jaden, played by Alex Hartman. He's the Red Ranger. He's an okay Red Ranger. He's okay. Mia, the Pink Ranger, played by Erica Fong. Mike, the Green Ranger, one of my favorite Green Rangers, played by Hector David Jr., who is just the nicest and most awesome guy you can meet. I haven't met him in real life yet, but I've seen videos and I've seen stuff on his Instagram. He is a really cool, good-natured guy. Yeah. Not to mention, as a kid, he was my favorite Ranger. Then Kevin, played by Najee Tatij. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. He's the Blue Ranger. He's okay. He's okay. I'll get to why he's just okay later on. Then there's Emily, the Yellow Ranger, played by Brittany Ann Pirtle. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She's also just okay. And then there's Antonio, played by Steven Scour. He's the Gold Ranger. He's a cool Gold Ranger. I don't think he's one of the best Gold Rangers. He's not like Jason from Zeo or anything like that, but he's pretty cool, and I like him. I like Antonio. Then for the supporting cast, it's very small because pretty much all the other people listed on the wiki and stuff like that is just people that are in one episode and then gone the next, or very minor characters that only recur every now and then. Like, it's just not important. I'm just going to list the important supporting cast characters because I'm already taking enough of your time as is. So, we have Mentor G, played by Renee Malfahu. Yep, he's back again. And unfortunately, Mentor G is a bad mentor. A really bad one. He takes away Mike's Morpher, he takes away Antonio's Morpher, and he keeps talking about the way of the samurai. And it doesn't really, teach them any actual meaningful lessons. Most of the time they have to learn the lessons themselves. Bad mentor. Just bad mentor. No. Then, as I previously stated, Bulk comes back, played by Paul Schreier once again. And it's great to see Bulk again. Yes, he's doing the same shtick as always, but this time around, he also gets some new character development. In this case, having to train his old buddy Skull's son, Spike. I'm saying that slow so I don't get tongue twisted. Played by Felix Ryan. I like Spike. He's okay, but he's definitely a very blatant replacement for Skull, which kind of bums me out a little bit, but he's not bad. He just wasn't given great material to work with. But I do like Bulk and Spike's little side story about how supposedly it's more about becoming a samurai at first, and then the more you watch it, the more time goes on with each thing. Like each scene that Bulk and Spike are in, you start to see more that Bulk isn't teaching him about how to be a samurai. It's more about life and how to defend yourself and, stuff like that. And you know what? That's a really nice role for him, being the mentor. I think that really works for Bulk's character. Moving on to the villains, this one's also pretty short and sweet, not counting all the Monster of the Day Nylox. You have Xandrid, played by Jeff Zusterman. I'm pretty sure the S is silent. Xandrid is confusing. He has such a really cool design, but most of the episodes he just complains about his headache. Yeah, that's not enjoyable. That's just dumb. He has such a cool design, but his voice is generic, and almost every episode he's just complaining about his headache and yelling at people with that cliche villain grizzled voice. No offense to the actor, I'm sure he did the best with what he had, but Xandrid's frustrating, because I really want to like him just because of his awesome design, but his character is just boring. He is a boring main protagonist. Well, antagonist, excuse me. Then there's Serrator, voiced by Derek Judge. He's slightly better, and it's only because of his connection to Dayu and Decker and what pasts they lived in. But outside of that, he's just okay. He's okay. But then Dayu and Decker, these are by far the best two villains in the show. First, there's Dayu, voiced by Kate Elliott, and her backstory is tragic. And it's a bit short, but it makes a lot of sense, and not to mention the fact that her lost love doesn't even remember her, even though both of them have been resurrected as Nylox in one way or another from the same circumstances. It's interesting. It's really interesting. And Dayu as a character is just really cool. I like her. But that is in comparison paling to Decker. Decker is awesome. Yes, he's played by he who shall not be acknowledged, but he's awesome. He's a cursed swordsman that just wants to have that climactic duel. And he will literally go against Xandrid's back just to make sure he gets this duel. And sure, it kind of borderlines on obsessive, but at the same time, when you realize his backstory and what turned him into what he is, it makes a whole lot more sense. Not to mention, design, for lack of a better term, badass. The stark white with that crimson red face, Oh man, Decker is just awesome. Then there's Octoroo, who's also voiced by Jeff Susterman. He's a little better than Xandred, but just because he's the comic relief guy. It's really about it. And I know that they're called Moogers in the official wiki and other seasons of the show, but in the show itself, in this season specifically, they just call them Nylox. They don't really call them Moogers, so I'm just going to call them Nylox. The Nylox are among the cooler foot soldiers. Like, they have a neat design, they definitely look very monstrous, and they do put up a decent fight against the Rangers when they're in huge numbers. Like, in a few episodes, when it's a huge number of them versus the Rangers, we see the effect and toll it takes on them. Like, that's fascinating. So yeah, I like the Nylox. They're cool foot soldiers. I like them. They're no Tyrannodrones, but they're cool. Then we move on to the weapons. These are also a bit of a mixed bag. I really like the spin sword, having this katana that also has this extra added thing that allows them to spin a disc that allows them to do things like throw fire or spawn rocks or gusts of wind. Like, that's really cool. And it's all done through these power discs. And I think this is also really cool. It's a good change of pace because you can give, like, you have a sword. That would probably work well enough, but imagine if you had this extra added thing that you could put on your sword, and after you spin it, you can either make your own specific weapon, or you can shoot your specific element power at the enemy. Like, for example, the ability to shoot fire from your sword. That is friggin' sick. Sure, it's been done before in Power Rangers, but it's still cool. And then for the specific weapons, we have a Fire Smasher for Red Ranger, one of the coolest design specific weapons for the Red Ranger, just a giant, massive freaking sword buster blade looking thing. Like, it is so cool. Especially later on in the show when he just friggin' dual wields them like a boss. Like, BAAF. That's all I'm going to say. Fire Smasher's sick. Then we have a Hydro Bow for the Blue Ranger. Yes, the Pink Ranger doesn't get saddled with a bow for once, which is nice. But the bow itself is fine. It's a very simplistic, very generic design, but it works fine. Then there's the Sky Fan for the Pink Ranger. It's traditional because this is a very Japanese Sentai they're adapting this from, so giving the Pink Ranger a fan makes a lot of sense in that context, but as a weapon, it's just okay. Then the Green Ranger, Mike gets a Force Spear, which is really cool. Not only does it have a symbol on the top, but it also, well, it's a spear. It's a bladed bow staff. It's really cool. Then we have the Earth Slicer for the Yellow Ranger. It's complicated. Like, it's pretty much a giant shuriken that also acts as a boomerang. Like, that's pretty much what the Earth Slicer is. And it's fine. And then they all also have a Mega Blade. And then the Gold Ranger gets a Barracuda Blade, which is pretty much a Barracuda-shaped dagger that he can attack enemies with at, like, lightning speed. Like, Barracuda Blade's cool. There's not technically a battleizer for the season, but I just want to throw this in here because I thought it was sick. That's the Red Ranger's Shogun mode. Why was this not an official battleizer in the show? Like, the Shogun mode is sick. Like, it's a Power Ranger that's made to look like a Shogun samurai. Like, with armor and everything. It is sick. Like, it is one of the coolest designs in all Power Rangers. But two problems are, it's specific to the Red Ranger, and he can only use it, minus garbage plot holes and Super Samurai, he can only use it in the Megazord. And that sucks a little bit. And sure, there's also the armored versions of the Rangers when they're also in the Megazord, but they pale in comparison to that Shogun mode. Like, oh man, the Shogun mode is sick. It is so cool. Like, seriously, Shogun mode's awesome. I don't care if it's not technically a battleizer, I'm calling it a battleizer, and it's one of the coolest ones in the entire series. Then for the vehicles, you technically have two, but only one of them is in one episode, so I'm just gonna go with one of them. The war horses. They're fine. They're horses with colored saddles, that's about it. That are spawned from drawing symbols. I'll talk more about that later. Moving on from that, we have the Zords, starting with the folding Zords, lion, dragon, turtle, bear, and ape. And then the other Zords, you have the beetle, swordfish, tiger, and octo. Then for the Megazords, not counting the ults, you only have 4. That blows a little bit. You have the Samurai Megazord, which is a cool design. It's a bit simple, but again, it's trying to harken back to the days of old, to old school Mighty Morphin. So having a simplistic design makes a lot of sense, and I do really like the Samurai Shogun helmet thing on top. Like, that thing is cool. Then you have the Samurai Battlewing Megazord, which is specific to the Red, Green, and Blue Ranger. Then you have the Battlewing, which is the combined version of all that together. And then the Gold Ranger gets the Claw Battle North Megazord. It's fine. Then for the ults, you have the Beetle Blaster, the Swordfish Fencer, the Tiger Drill, and the Octo Spear. So, yeah. Bit lacking in the Zords department, but it's fine. It could be worse. Okay. Now let's talk about the suits. I really like these suits. I think they look really cool. Not to mention, well, for one, they all have really very specific designs for their helmets that all harken back to some kind of Japanese symbolism, and it looks really cool. Not to mention the whole design with the chests being kind of like a shogun samurai, like, gi-looking thing. Like, it's a bit hard to explain, but it's cool. And then the gold belt, and then the black pants with the white gloves, and it just looks really cool. It's a bit simple, but you have to remember, the Mighty Morphin suits were also pretty simple, so if you look at it from that angle, it makes a lot more sense. And not to mention, it just looks really cool. Especially Red Ranger, who has one of the coolest helmets in all the franchise. Like, that helmet is so sick. I especially also really like how, in this season, the Power Rangers morph by drawing their symbols in front of them with this morpher, the Samuraizer. I haven't talked a lot about the morphers, I know, but most of them are just flip phones, so I didn't really feel like it was necessary. But I am going to talk about the Samurais because these things are sick. You literally take it out, and you draw your symbol in front of you. And then the morphing sequence is pretty cool too, where they have like this ninja mode as kind of an homage to Mighty Morphin Season 3, probably. And then they get their actual Ranger mode. Like, it's cool. It's a really cool morphing sequence, and it's a really cool way to morph. Not to mention the other ways they use it in the show. Yes, I don't like the gold morpher as much because it just digitalizes it right in front of him, but he's also the more tech-savvy Ranger of the bunch, so it makes a lot of sense, but that part just bugs me a little bit, that he doesn't just draw a symbol in the air, instead he just hits a button, there it is, like a hologram. Like, that part is a bit annoying, but it's fine. And that's pretty much this entire season. It's fine. It's a mixed bag. I really like the suits, I really like the powers, I really like the weapons for the most part, and the whole samurai theme is pretty cool. But what bogs it down is that the writing is a bit mixed. Xandrid is a bit of a boring, well, not a bit, he is a very main antagonist. And a lot of the episodes can meander. And like I said, Mentor G, awful mentor. Like, he's not as bad as Gosei, but my goodness, is he a bad mentor. And then the Ranger team themselves is likable, and they still, you can feel their chemistry on screen. Like, in events and stuff like that, they still regularly come back for events and signings and stuff like that. Sometimes they're all together, and they're still friends. Like, if you look on their Instagrams, you can tell they're still friends. They still meet up a lot. Like, I like that. I like how they have that camaraderie even after their tenure in Power Rangers ends. Like, That's really nice to see. So, yeah, Samurai's a mixed bag, and I can understand why a lot of people don't like it, but me personally, it's the season that got me back into Power Rangers, and is followed up with the superior Super Samurai later on, even though that one has its own bunch of problems, but whatever. It's definitely more rewatchable than a Wild Force, not only because it's shorter, but also because I feel like it's a bit more tightly scripted in a way. But in the same way, the writing is also very hit or miss. Like, sometimes you get really good writing and really good scenes, and then you have, in other moments, cringy writing that falls in line with where Nickelodeon was in that decade. Like, seriously, the 2010s was not cool for Nick. Like, bleh. It's called the Dark Era for a very good reason, even though it had this and TMNT 2012, which would come out literally a year after Samurai, so yeah. I have a soft spot for Samurai, but I can fully acknowledge that it has not aged very well. So, yeah, do with that what you will. Final verdict for Samurai is going to be a 6 out of 10. It's decent, it's better than Wild Force, but it's definitely on the lower rung of the Power Rangers seasons. But I still have a soft spot for it. It's what got me back into Power Rangers, and the memories it has made with me are going to stay with me for a long time yet. So, I have a soft spot for it. So, but I can understand if it's a season that you absolutely hate. Alright, that's all I got. See you guys next time for Super Samurai and Clash of the Red Rangers.